All right, we should be live. Let's see. Hello, Odellon. Hello, Addison. Hello, newbie. Hi. What's up, everyone? So, gonna start the stream out talking about yesterday. So the original plan was to talk about the December 10th, 2021. It's the 2-year anniversary of that. Um, but yesterday was another extremely wild day. The 2-year anniversary of that. Oop. What's up, Weather IQ? Travis, how's it going, dude? You were hit by one of the tornadoes, but it was the one north of Hendersonville that had a PDS. Yeah, that tornado. What a wild tornado. That was the one with the explosion. Um, got it pulled up here. Watch Connor Croft stream. Yeah, he's a good chaser. Addison, yesterday there were a bunch of tornadoes in northern Tennessee into Kentucky. Um, and there were some wild photogenic tornadoes. Kelton is in the chat. Henderson Path was 37 miles. Yeah. I actually let me pull up the damage assessment toolkit here. Because last night I checked it and there were they had the paths populated, but no, they don't. Okay, so the only one I see here is so this was the Clarksville tornado. It actually did not start here. This is because it's on the Kentucky-Tennessee border. It's a different CWA. It's a different National Weather Service office. So I'm not quite sure. Is that Paducah? I think that's probably Paducah. NWS Paducah. Yeah, Paducah's right here. So NWS Paducah is like right in the corner. They already have EF2. Whether or not, I don't think that's final. I'm guessing EF2 is gonna change. Some of the damage in Clarksville was really, really bad. Raul, I wish I could speak Spanish. I don't know what you're saying. Sorry. What if the Mayfield 21 reached EF5 strength, 300 mile per hour winds? So I don't think that was the case. I think if it was EF5, it was low end EF5. They gave it 190, so it would have been that's pretty upper bound EF4. So actually, let me pull up the paths here. So this was yesterday. These are preliminary. But if I pull up December 10th, you can see, so the December 10th are all the colored ones. You can see just how similar of an area. I mean, some of these actually took like the same exact track. So the Southern Supercell on December 10th went through Nashville and Northern Nashville, and the storm yesterday, which are these black lines here, went through North Nashville, and the explosion actually happened right here at this power plant, or it's a power distribution. These wires here, and let's pull up some video here. This is one of the wildest things to happen in a long time. Oh, you know, I don't have the scene right. My bad, guys. I'm like, yeah, sorry. I fix it. I fix it. My bad, guys.
Oh shit.
We can't see yet. Yeah, this
Oh
is.
my god. Holy shit.
Let's watch that again. Because there's a lot to take in here. So this is the tornado. It's pretty tight cone, and then it's gonna pass this power line, and then that's when it has that explosion. Substation. Yeah. Thanks, Ethan.
Oh shit. Oh my god.
Smoke.
Holy shit.
Okay, so that's the video, but I want to like break this down a little bit. So you have a fully condensed tornado. This is pretty standard. Causes a power flash, so then we know it's going into the substation right here. And almost immediately following, another power flash. Boom, big one. And then this power flash, it's a little bit stronger, it's white. Um this is the one that probably caused that fireball. So you have this huge fireball. So you have a bunch of some sort of energy, probably oil, or I don't think gasoline. My buddy Kelton, he says likely cooling oil from a substation breaking apart. So I guess there's like oil coolers that keep the lines cold, and the tornado ripped that apart. The oil got released, and then because of these sparks, it lit it on fire. So the heat rises, you can see it goes up. But here's what's weird. Look at how different the tornado looks. Tornado is no longer fully condensed. Compare that, you can see that like there's like a break in the cloud right here to this. And it's clear the fireball had an effect on the tornado. People on Twitter, I know Reed posted about it. He was saying, and basically, so it affects the thermodynamics of the tornado. So what's going on is it's heating up the tornado. Um, what we see with this condensation funnel, tornadoes are actually they're cold air. So the hot air surrounds the tornado, but the tornado itself, what you're seeing is actually the low pressure cold air. So then when you have a fireball, it's going to heat that cold air up, and it took away that tornado. But here's the thing, it did not stop the tornado. The tornado continued. So we need to shoot fireballs and tornadoes. No, see that's the thing is like visually it affects the tornado, but it does not actually stop the tornado. This tornado is still going strong. In fact, if I pull up Google Earth, yeah, the tornado still went way after that explosion. The explosion kind of happened towards the beginning of the tornado. And there were multiple views of it. So that video I just showed you was Philip Dixon. He was really close. It was like right on the other side of the trees. But there's this guy. I think this Conway, this other one is an even better view. You can see it from further away. You see the fireball. It rises. You can see the condensation funnel break apart right there, and then the tornado continues. There's another one up here. Boom, fireball. Goes. Keeps going. Kenny, so I don't think explosions can stop tornadoes. The entire tornado is a lot more than just one explosion, and the storm is a lot bigger than just the tornado. So no, I don't think a nuke or an explosion can stop a tornado. So yeah, that was yesterday. And I think the craziest thing is December 9th is almost exactly 2 years after the December 10th outbreak. And I had been planning this stream for over a week now, and yeah, I did not expect what happened to happen. It was only a 5%. Um, so that was the explosion happened in Hendersonville, which is a northern suburb of Nashville. But the first tornado, and I actually think the most significant tornado of the day, was the one in Clarksville. There's my buddy Norman, might be in the chat. I don't know. But he caught video of it. Show his video here. He caught the beginning of the Clarksville tornado. You can see it here.
Debris going in the air. That's a strong tornado, ladies and gentlemen. It's moving on toward due north. We're in good position. Here comes the RFD. Clearly textbook. Debris going up in the air. We are flying just right where we are. Up windows, up windows. This RFD tornado is going to be crossing right in front of us. There's the roar.
So yeah, that was Norman. He caught the beginning of the Clarksville tornado. And then let's go back. Brian. He caught it crossing the road right here. I think Pamela's video might be the best. I don't have the links here. Also, this photo here is wild. He's a little bit further away, but you can see the full tornado cyclone. Yeah, you can see the full tornado cyclone here. You can see the inflow side, so he's on the north side of this tornado, and it's going to the left here. All right, let me start answering chat. Pamela's full video is on YouTube. Yeah. Let me try if I can this real quick. Pamela Kimborough, because I thought she had the best. She had the best video. Let's see if it's here. Yep, here we go.
Honey, is it coming towards us? That's a tornado and it's coming towards us. You see it?
Yeah.
Do we need to get in the bed? Call Tony, we need to be in the bedroom. It's coming straight towards us.
No, it's coming south of us.
Again, tornado has not been rated yet. NWS is still doing survey. I'm guessing probably in the next 2 or 3 days we'll have an answer to that.
I'm getting it, honey. It's hitting our neighborhood. You say it's not coming towards us.
No, it's heading toward the. It's heading toward.
Which tornado was the deadliest last night? So I think the Clarksville and then the Hendersonville both, unfortunately took the lives of 3. So.
I hope you're right, sweetie.
Yeah, this is a very strong tornado.
Wow.
What's up, Lucas? All right, I'll be quiet. This is when it really gets good.
Wow, I know why. Look at that thing. So we're at Tobacco and Sandburg and Clarksville near Fort Campbell. This is incredible. Thank you. Wow.
There's a moment right here.
Look at that.
Yeah, right here. You could see this almost like sub-vortice out in front. Let's slow it down.
Wow.
Yeah, look right here. Really looks like Andover. I don't know. It kind of reminds me of Washington in its early stage. Um, that tornado. I'm sure you guys have all seen that, but these tornadoes out east in Kentucky and Tennessee really have their own appearance to them. And then this photo was taken by some guy. He didn't post his name, but it looked mean. But the thing is, this continued for quite a while, and here's where we get some crazy crossover. The same tornado that hit Clarksville continued on almost like 80 miles or so, and here's a photo of it in Bowling Green, which Bowling Green was also hit on December 10th, 2 years ago. So yeah, just a lot of weird similarities between December 10th and yesterday. Um, looks more see-through. Yeah, exactly. So tornadoes don't need to be fully condensed for them to be strong. They can be extremely strong and not be see-through and be see-through. I don't think it hit Bowling Green. I want to say something. These paths are very unofficial. Um, so let me get rid of December 10th. These paths I have are very unofficial. They're kind of super early, just taken from radar. They'll change. There's no rating right now. Yeah, I think you can make an argument that this eastern part of the U.S. is a tornado hotspot in December. Okay. And okay, so one other thing, we talked about Clarksville and Hendersonville, but there was actually another tornado that looked quite strong. This one here near Springfield. There's a good video here. Yeah, the Springfield tornado was also pretty stout.
Oh my God. Oh my God. It's huge. Oh my God.
Am I getting this KML files? So the data was taken from the NWS damage assessment toolkit last night. They had them up for I don't know how long. They're not up anymore. And I populated all these photos myself. All right. What was that explosion that happened in I was talking about that earlier, but it was this right here. There is it's a substation. Actually, let's pull up Google Earth or Google Street View. And take a look here. Yeah, this is what it was. And I don't know if it was these oil drums here, or I see some other drums here that it could have been. But in one of these, they had a highly flammable liquid like oil, or I'm not quite sure. But what happened is the tornado broke that open, released all the oil, and then because of all the power flashes and the arcing that happens here, it lit it on fire, and then that's how you got that fireball. Just one of the craziest things I've seen on any tornado video in a long time. And I made a video earlier this year, strangest tornado damage. And had this happened, I probably would have included it. But yeah, didn't happen yet. And then there were some other shots here. So later on in its life, Ben Ash captured this photo here. It was like kind of a stout, wide tornado. This was after the explosion. You can see it kind of wedged out. And this is a mean looking tornado. Really mean looking. You know what? Look at this. Whoa, you guys see that? You guys see that? You guys see what I'm seeing right now? Look at this. Oh, this is the first time I'm seeing this. This is wild. Look at this. Boom. Look at that. There's a light right here. There's a light circling this tornado. And it's persistent. Look at this. Oh. This is wild. This is the first time I'm seeing this. This is Do I think this was a car? I don't, you know what? I'm starting to think it's something else. I'm starting to think there's something else. Cuz there's more, and here's Kelton says starting to think it's ball lightning. This is weird, guys. I think we're onto something here, cuz it's more than just this tornado. I mean, it's Rolling Fork was the one that it was extremely visible on. And you know what? There's one other one I found that I was going to bring up in the stream, but I'm kind of going out of order here. But since we're on the topic, why don't we go to it? Why don't we go to it? Edwardsville. The Edwardsville tornado had a light going around it as well. You can see it in the photo here. Let me pull up the video. It's going to be more visible in the video. This audio is really bad, but look, you can see the light. See it? So, hey, maybe this is ball lightning. I think it just is hard for me to believe that this is a car. Because, for one, this is well outside of the really strong winds of the tornado. Because you have the main tornado core right here. And then you have the light to the right that's like pretty far removed from it. I don't think it's a car. It doesn't look like a car. I agree. Even though I said in the past that I think Rolling Fork was a car, Rolling Fork was a little bit different than this. Rolling Fork was a much wider and stronger tornado. Some flaming piece of debris like a propane tank leaking. Yeah, I think that's possible. Could just be a light reflection. I mean, the problem with the light reflection is that it's moving. So it's not like like when you get reflection off of cars, you'll get like a flash of light. But then this is persistent. So I think it's something different. Yes, Addison, this was in Edwardsville. Same tornado that did this. It went right through the Amazon warehouse. It totally obliterated this warehouse. You can see here on Google Earth the old Amazon warehouse, and it looks like they haven't rebuilt it because this imagery is a lot more modern. Years before, years after. So yeah, here I actually have the DIs populated here, and look at some of these photos. Here's the Amazon warehouse, just totally obliterated. The thing with these though is they're really large structures. So when you have a large structure like that, it's going to give a lot more surface area for the winds to produce damage on. And that's why it can do, like, this is EF3 and maybe it's like swept away, but I would never call this type of building an EF5 damage indicator because it's just so much larger than a regular home. All right, let's see what chat is saying. It seems like you guys are pretty interested by that light. That might be a good video in the future. I've actually thought of an actual name, TLPs, Tornado Light Phenomenon. And the lightning on the tornado that I got earlier this year, I would call a TLP. So that would be like tornado-induced lightning. Uh-oh. Tornado Tracks with the super chat. Thank you so much, dude. Really appreciate it. Apparently there's something behind me. I guess not. Tornado TRX, is that? I think that's how I'm supposed to say it. I don't know. Not asked if both the Tennessee tornadoes were EF3. We don't know yet. If I had to guess, it's gonna either be high end EF3 or low end EF4. But we're gonna have to wait on the NWS. They're the ones who are gonna do the surveys. Yeah, there's still a serious lack of information. This happened just yesterday, and there's a lot of tornadoes. Some of these were like 80 miles long. Actually, let me pull this up. 83.5 is, according to this Jeff Petrosky tweet, the Clarksville tornado. Whether or not that was a single continuous tornado, that's TBD, but that thing was on the ground for quite a while. A lot of damage. Terry McCloskey saw his first tornado north of Nashville. Insane and cool looking. Yeah, I think the first tornado you ever see is gonna stick with you forever. They really do almost seem like otherworldly. It's like supernatural. You're seeing something you've never seen before. So, that's kind of all as like for media as far as yesterday, I don't know if you guys want me to look. I kind of wanted to maybe look at the models really quickly while they're still live. So let's look at the her, because I think the her did by far the best job of predicting yesterday. We look at, this is the 12Z her. Second. Oh no, we got to go back in time. So this is before the event, and then boom. This arc of supercells predicted by the her was spot on. And this was well before, this was 6 hours before the event. And then if we go to the 18Z her, so this is right when it was starting to happen, it gets a little bit more accurate. And if we look at the supercell composite, yeah, look at this. The her was putting a bullseye on northern Tennessee. And look at how this bullseye moves north. Yeah, that is directly following the path of that Clarksville storm. And then there's another bullseye to the south, which is probably that Nashville storm. So the HRRR did fantastic job. That's why I am a huge believer in the her. Even day of, when I go storm chasing, I am always checking the her, because her is constantly updating data. So the data just gets better and better. The model runs get better and better. We're getting into some nerd stuff here, but let's take a look at some sounding data. Here is right around the Clarksville storm. Again, this might not be totally accurate, but if we pull up the RAP sounding, let's see what we have. So you have about a little over 1,000 cape, a really nice cape profile. You can see the 3 cape is over 100. Let me go down. 3 cape at 126. You have a nice cape profile, mostly in the low levels. But look at how straight this is. I don't think this is accurate. I think the photograph was actually probably more curved than what this is showing. There is a nom run. Let's get them 12Z. Here's 21Z. So this is right around the Clarksville time. See a much more curved photograph. So the nom has been kind of like inconsistent, but I think this is more accurate. All right. All right, you know what? I've been talking about this event for almost 30 minutes now, so I think we should switch gears, focus on December 10th, because it is the 2-year anniversary. That's what we have been. That was the original plan. So I'm actually gonna bring on a guest, and he's actually in chat, Kelton Henderson. So let's bring him on. Is he there? Kelton, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. What's up?
What's up, dude?
Not too much. How's everyone doing?
So Kelton,
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, you're good. The thing with Kelton is he actually did survey of the tornado at like the next day, right after it happened. So his he is much more of an expert than I am. And yeah. You know what? I'm gonna bring up your
Oh, you taking a look at the damage track video?
yeah. pull it up. So this right here is in Mayfield, and Mayfield was the extremely strong tornado.
Yeah, it's by far of all the tornadoes that I've actually seen the damage from in person, this one is by far the most intense. It's just absolutely incredible.
Yeah. It's off. I'm kind of burning up here.
Jeez, yeah. Yeah, it blows my mind every single time I see this. And I mean, I've reviewed this footage, I can't even say how many times, but it's just, it's heartbreaking to see it in person like this. This town that, has all this history behind it. And then in what, 2 or 3 minutes that it took to cross the entire town, it's gone.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, as bad as this was, I don't think the worst damage was in Mayfield. I think it was later on. You have a big section of Mayfield here. Let me go later in the
Yeah.
video. So Princeton, I know this point right here was really bad. I think Princeton had the cycloidal marks. See if I can.
Yeah, this tornado was definitely pretty exceptional throughout its path, but there's definitely parts of it that are a lot more intense. I do not think that the tornado reached its peak strength in Mayfield. I think that happened later on towards Bremen.
Yeah. This right here is pretty wild.
Yeah, so this here is called ground scouring, and the little marks that you're seeing as it's going along, those are called cycloidal marks, and that's what that is that's actually, so you went tornadoes, especially big ones like this, they're not just one solid vortex most of the time. There are lots of smaller ones that are spinning around apparent circulation, and whenever those subvortices rotate around cyclonically and they move in the same direction parallel to the tornado's motion, they reach their maximum speeds, like the relative speed of the ground, and they can do their most damage at that point, which is why you see most severe tornado damage on the southern edge of its circulation, which is what those marks are. Those are the subvortices spinning around inside of the tornado, and then the damage gets to its worst point as it goes across in the same direction that the tornado is moving in, which is what's leaving those circular marks that get intense as they sweep around the right side of the screen.
Yeah. So right here is an extremely defined subvortex. And look at how thin this is. I mean, this is maybe 5 feet across. I'm being generous. It might be even less, 5 to 10 feet.
Maybe even less than that, maybe just a couple feet, but it's
Yeah.
exceptionally narrow and very intense.
And I mean, so the way the EF scale is, the damage is supposedly supposed to be is a 3 second wind burst. But the thing is, tornadoes aren't necessarily producing damage for 3 seconds. This is happening. I mean, this is like, it's happening so fast. Tornadoes moving at 50 miles an hour, and this is moving even faster because it's getting swung around the tornado. So it's probably affecting an area for not even a tenth of a second.
Oh yeah, I'm sure some of the most intense damage from tornadoes like this. I mean, remember this tornado was moving at like 55, 60 miles per hour forward. So with those subvortices swinging around, some of these spots are experiencing extreme winds for, like you said, fractions of a second at a time. Like the extreme damage that this tornado did in a lot of places, it did it in sometimes less than a second, which is just incredible to think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, this kind of the whole story of this whole evening was, I mean, me and Chris have been friends for a while now, but we were all watching this together, this whole event unfold, and tornadoes like this storm, the supercells, the radar presentation on it, they just have a look to it, and I just knew right away as soon as I saw that. I'm like, I have to go and see this in person to document the damage and see if anyone needs help. But
Yeah,
it's just,
I remember that we were tracking the storm, and you just knew that this was going to be a historic tornado. And
yeah, it was pretty incredible. I mean, at the time there was an EF4 that happened before this that hit Hayti and Monette, Arkansas. Um, and then went through the Missouri Boot Hill into Tennessee. At first, we actually thought that this was one long track tornado, possibly the longest track in history. But there's actually a small break in the track that happens in
mhm.
Tennessee. But yeah, we thought it may have been the first EF5 tornado that we've seen in what 10 plus years now, or possibly the longest track tornado in history. So we
Yeah.
definitely needed to be up there to document it.
So this right here is in Bremen, which I think everyone agrees on is the one point of contention. I don't think anywhere else was solid EF5, but this is the area here. This is one point, as well as others. This is not the famous one. Uh, I know Ethan did a stream yesterday, and he went over this
Mhm.
area.
Yeah, I would say out of all of the entire track, and don't get me wrong, this tornado was violent for most of its life, from all the way from Casey, which is this town that's just across the Tennessee-Kentucky border, all the way through Bremen and beyond. It was fluctuating in intensity. It was definitely violent for a lot of it, but by far in Bremen, this is the only spot in the entire track where you can there's very strong evidence that this is where it peaked in strength, and there's a couple spots in here in particular where there's definitely a solid argument to be made that it was of EF5 intensity. I mean, contextually, based on the damage you're seeing, the tornado is probably an EF5 through here. It's just because of the limitations of how the enhanced Vegeta scale works. It's hard to get the damage to match up with what you're seeing. Just absolutely incredible. Blows my mind every single time I watch through this. And I was here in person to see a lot of this damage, and just
Yeah.
we can be amazed at how incredible it is from a science, like a research perspective. But at the end of the day, I mean, I saw some stuff in here that was pretty dark. I mean, there's, you know, you have to remember that, you know, we're fascinated by these things, but this killed a lot of people, and
Mhm.
there's evidence of that everywhere you go. I mean, there's a couple spots in here where I was like finding pieces of like debris that was clearly people's belongings. There was, children's toys and stuff like toddlers' clothes all over the place. I mean, it gets pretty dark, but it's just something to remember that as much as we're fascinated by these things, they definitely have a dark side.
Yeah, it's really sad. I've never encountered any damage like this. In fact, I've kind of tried to avoid damage because I am of the belief that um, it's not really, I can't really help. I think documenting it is super important, but as far as search and rescue, I'm not qualified to do that. So try to stay out of the way, but it is super important to know just how strong these are. Look, you can already see there's like a line of trucks. Was this like 2 days after, or was it the next day?
So I was in Mayfield, I think 36 hours after the tornado, and then in Bremen, I think 48 hours afterwards. So this is right around a little less than 2 days afterwards, I think, or maybe
Okay.
just over. I can't really remember, but I know that this is within a couple days of it happening. But I do gotta say, I've never seen such a fast like reaction of all the local people to a disaster site quite like this. It
It's
was
over.
immediate, and they had a lot of things done very, very quickly. Like I was expecting to go in here and having to help dig people out, and I mean, there wasn't really much to do. I mean, sure, you can help talk to people, but they did a remarkable job about getting a lot of this cleaned up and helping people out in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, everywhere you went, you just saw people helping other people, and I know it's a little bit cliche to talk about that with disasters, but it's true.
Yeah, I mean it's horrible to experience, the death and the destruction, but in a way it does bring communities together. People will do what they have to do to get by, and I think it's really amazing how resilient we are. Although Mayfield is always going to be impacted.
Yeah, there's I I briefly mentioned this in the video that I did on this tornado a while back, but there's just certain types of tornadoes like this in certain areas, and unfortunately in this area of the United States in particular, the socioeconomic conditions there are not the most conducive to rebuilding, and a lot of these towns, like as sad as it is to say, are probably never going to be the same again after this.
Hmm.
I mean, Ethan pointed this out pretty well in his stream yesterday, and I got to actually revisit Mayfield again 6 or 7 months after the tornado, and I was astonished with how little had changed since then. I mean, empty plots everywhere. I mean, I could still find cars that had been lofted in the tornadoes that I remember seeing there when I visited right after the tornado that were still left in fields and stuff 6 months afterwards. And there's other areas. It's not that wasn't always the same across everywhere. Like specifically the country club and in Bremen in particular, I noticed the cleanup and recovery was pretty quick. Like they had a lot of stuff cleaned up fast, but Mayfield, Mayfield and Dawson Springs, I think were the two where I noticed that the recovery effort was just not progressing as fast as you would, like to see it. But
Yeah.
that's unfortunately the reality of a tornado of this magnitude hitting this specific area. It's never going to be the same again.
Yeah.
It's definitely incredible. Although I do have to say, given how violent this tornado was, what time of night it hit at, and like, the time of year as well, it could have definitely been a lot worse. But there's some dark stuff in this because a lot of the people I was talking to while I was there, because they'd obviously ask what I was up to, and I'd say I was, documenting the damage from the tornado, and I'd ask them pretty much everyone I talked to knew that the tornado was coming. Like they had warning. It's just a lot of them, they had nowhere to go. Like they don't have a basement or anything. They just had to ride out this strong of a tornado above ground, and they knew it was coming, and there's nothing they can do about it. It's
Yeah.
just it's pretty interesting to think about. Like us as, storm chasers or weather enthusiasts, whatever you want to call it. It's like if we could just transfer just a little bit of that knowledge that we have of it. I mean, it's really not that hard to move a couple miles north, south, or whatever direction you please to get out of the way of this thing's path. But it's like you feel like you have this knowledge, but you can't communicate it to people. And it's like, oh, I just wish that they knew like that little bit of information that could have saved their lives. But it's just tough.
Yeah. I mean, the warning was out, but even still, um, there's so much chaos that it can be a toss of a coin between someone surviving and someone not surviving. You can do everything right and still that not be enough.
Yeah, definitely pretty incredible. And I don't want to focus just on this specific tornado. I mean, it is the most impactful of the outbreak by far, but this was a massive tornado outbreak that happened that affected a whole bunch of other communities other than just this
Yeah.
specific tornado's track.
So let's look at that. So this is the Mayfield one. This is what everyone, that's by far the main tornado of the event, but um there were still so many other tornadoes that day. Um you have this storm here that tracked across St. Louis. Actually, I lived in St. Louis for a while. I had a friend. She had a friend who lived right here in Chesterfield. Um, that impacted the Amazon warehouse, where I think 6 died, unfortunately, and continued to produce more EF2s. Uh, there was another storm way up north that had EF2 damage.
Hmm.
The Bowling Green storm was another long tracker. You have this was not the Bowling Green tornado. I think Dresden, is that what it's called? You would probably know. Or Pembroke.
Which from which I think so. If you're talking about the southern supercells.
Yeah, the southern supercell just south of Mayfield. Um, this was actually the second longest tornado of the outbreak.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the Bowling Green tornado. Actually, it wasn't this one. It was another EF3. And then Bowling Green tornado went right through the heart of Bowling Green.
Yeah, that one's pretty interesting because you've got the super long track storm coming through, and then it produces another EF3 in Bowling Green, and then another tornado touches down, and you actually had two going through the town at once, which I can't even imagine having to deal with that.
yeah, you have an EF2 to the south, right alongside another EF3. Um, yeah, this is just wild stuff. And it continued, producing two more long track EF2s and another long track EF3.
Yeah, it just kind of goes to show you that these storms, these supercell thunderstorms, like they can just produce a swath of damage for hundreds of miles. I mean, it's crazy to think about, but this single thunderstorm is capable of so much destruction.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also just so erratic. I mean, these are relatively, like straight, but there's still so much curving, there's still so much turns. Like look at this, it's going this direction. So you would think, oh, if it's gonna go, oh, hey, the tornado's going this way. No, it's going that way. It turns north and then turns again. So there's a reason why tornado warnings are large polygons. It's kind of like it gives a lot of space, and really I know you get tornado, most people in the east of the United States get tornado warnings all the time, and it's just like you just blow it off like, yeah, whatever, it's just a tornado warning, I'm not going to see anything. But these things are so erratic that you really need to take them seriously.
Yeah, I mean, even on a day like this where the photographs are more favorable to kind of tornadoes that are almost on rails where they're straight, or at least the parent mesocyclones are, they can still deviate around. I mean, you have to take that seriously.
Mhm.
Otherwise, can have some pretty severe consequences. And even then, even when they're on rails, they can deviate back and forth whichever direction based on whatever physical parameters are controlling the tornado's movement.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting better at predicting and warning tornadoes, but I don't think we'll ever be at a point where it's fully predicted. There's always going to be a level of uncertainty. So, yeah, that's December 10th. If you guys have any questions, I'd like us both to answer questions and kind of
Yeah,
like
for sure. It's definitely a pretty remarkable outbreak. At least for me, this is one of the more fascinating ones to study.
so they're asking about the Rochelle EF4 at 200. One thing I want to say, I know the EF scale is talked about, and I personally talk about it a lot. Um, but I do want to take a break from talking about that. I'm gonna make one more video in the future on that, and then I'm not gonna talk about it again. Just because I feel like that conversation has been had too much. It's just I think the people on the side where, oh yeah, EF5s don't happen. It's the ratings are good. NWS is right. Um, they're not really listening to the people who are saying that EF5s should be more frequent. So it just feels like a redundant conversation at this point.
Yeah, pretty well said. There's definitely some nuance to it that needs discussion, but I think once that's said, should probably focus on other things.
Um, one thing I want to show you is this right here. This photo. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, Google Earth is crashing. Hold on. So this photo from Eddie Knight is the famous.
Oh yeah.
This is the famous photo. And actually, thanks to Kelton, we were able to locate it. And he is right here, just north of the track near Bremen. And I know we've talked about the EF scale and whether or not this should have been EF5. But this right here is when the tornado was at its strongest. This is when it was doing that really bad damage.
Yeah, that's his video of this tornado is to me probably the most haunting and scary tornado footage I've seen out of the last few years.
Yeah.
It's
think-
just incredible, and that moment that he's capturing is exactly when it's tracking through and leaving all that ground scouring and doing its worst damage. It's if you want like a picture of like what one of the more violent tornadoes we've had in the last 10 years is, that's it right there.
Yep.
Just incredible. Blows my mind every single time I see it.
Yeah, so whether or not this was an EF5, this video by Eddie Knight is up there with some of the stuff Rochelle, Washington, as some of the creepiest tornado footage ever captured. And knowing that at that point when Eddie Knight was recording is when it was doing its worst damage, I think it makes it even creepier.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty incredible.
All right, so I'm gonna start interacting with chat more. Kelton, I'm gonna keep you up.
Okay.
ZZ Anoj asks, "Are strong tornadoes in December normal for this area?" I think we are beginning to realize that yes, they are, and maybe they're not normal historically, but they are becoming normal. I don't know what pattern is going on right now. But yes, I think the Eastern United States is far more susceptible this time of year. It's almost like
Yeah.
a second season peaks out in this area.
Yeah, I mean, we've had December tornadoes for ages. That's not a new thing, but I definitely think it would be interesting to look at some research about whether or not the stronger end tornadoes are becoming more frequent later in the year.
You know what? I think we can do something right now. Let's pull up Tornado Archive.
Oh yeah, if you guys don't already use this website, it's incredible to do research on, especially for video stuff. It's the most useful thing in the world.
All right. So what we can do is actually isolate the days, and I just typed in December here. So what we can see. Absolutely. East absolutely is a hotspot this time of year. So this day here, this is that Iowa derecho in 2020. So this was actually a couple days after the December 10th, 2021 outbreak, was this huge swath of tornadoes in Iowa.
Oh yeah, the December 15th, 2021 derecho tornado outbreak.
I talked about it in my strangest tornado events video. This is arguably the single one. If you're gonna call it one storm, this storm produced more tornadoes than any other storm. Is really derechos are single storms, but omitting that kind of like special case, I definitely see like Southern Illinois, Tennessee, Kentucky, Eastern Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi. This area here, right along the Mississippi River Valley, extremely tornado prone this time of year in December. And most people think of May as, that's, tornado season is in May. But the reason why May is considered tornado season is just because it happens in like Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas. But December can produce strong tornadoes. I see there's one F5 in Vicksburg. I don't know anything about this. 1953, so it's one December F5, but still plenty of strong tornadoes in December.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that the reason why you're seeing them more on the eastern side is by this point in the year in December, usually Tornado Alley itself is kind of too cold. It does like the moisture returns don't usually get up there as much, but the stuff that's closer to the Gulf, as those mid-latitude cyclones are swinging across, they are able to pull moisture out of the Gulf more effectively into that kind of, east central area, kind of like Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi area. That part of the country right there is just where that overlap of moisture return with wind shear, like instability and wind shear, the two main ingredients into how, thunderstorms form, it's maximized over that specific spot that time of year, which is part of the reason why you see that many tornadoes over that location in the United States. It's just whether or not the frequency of the stronger violent variety of tornadoes is increasing in that area or not. I think that's where some more research needs to be done.
Yeah. So let's see. Other questions. Someone's saying there's rotation in Virginia.
Yeah, I know that there's two risk areas for tornadoes. I'm actually under one of them right now, but
Yeah, he's in Florida, which has a
yeah, there's
5%.
a squall line moving over, but we're on stream here having fun with y'all.
Yep.
It should actually start getting rained on here in the next couple minutes.
Let's look. Let's go back to November. See what that. So yeah, look, there's kind of a trend. So the further we go back in the year, you can definitely see the tornadoes happen a little bit further west. And again, it's because that moisture advection gets harder and harder the closer you get to winter. So you're not going to have those the instability in the ingredients required to get tornado supercells.
It doesn't mean that they can't happen. It's just a frequency thing.
Yep. And this data is going all the way back to like the 1800s. So this is quite a lot of data here.
Mm-hmm.
In any one
Just
year,
absolutely remarkable tool.
in any one year, yeah. So what year is this? 2022. So yeah, this was the November 4th outbreak right here.
I think that was the one in Texas, right?
Yeah, right on Arkla, Texas. Um, Southeast Oklahoma. My buddy Max got some good tornadoes. There was the Sulphur Springs one. Where is that? Oh yeah, I think it's here. This EF2, and then the Clarksville. These were some strong tornadoes. Very low LCL, hard to see.
And that, like, the LCL height, for those who don't know, it's basically the bottom layer, like the where the cloud base or the bottom of the cloud is, where the moisture first condenses out of the air, the bottom of the cloud. So the lower that is, the harder the tornado is to see. You have to be closer to it to see it.
Yep. All right. Some guy mentioned Plainfield as the most shocking of all time.
Well, I definitely have some more stuff to say about that tornado soon, but we'll get to that when we get to it.
Yeah, there's going to be a video coming out on Plainfield in the next few weeks. So stay tuned. Big Rooster.
Definitely a fascinating one.
Aaron McCloskey asked a good question. They ask, was the second Bowling Green tornado on December 10th a satellite, or could it have been an anticyclonic with its odd path?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure. I remember doing research on it. I mean, that I did that video almost a year ago now. Given its proximity, I would think that it's a satellite tornado. With the anticyclonic ones, they're typically a little further removed from it on the other side of the rear flank downdraft. But it's possible it could be anticyclonic. I don't 100% know. But typically when you have tornadoes in this close proximity to each other, they're either satellites subvortices or some other uh, circulation, maybe a merger between two cyclonic tornadoes as the supercell was cycling. I'm not 100% sure. It's a good question, though.
Yeah, so here's something I want to talk about is what is one tornado and what is another tornado? And I think there's kind of maybe a misconception. I think people think every individual funnel is a different tornado. But the thing is, most updrafts or tornadic circulations have multiple vortices, and you're going to see a bunch of different tornadoes. Let me pull up the video. Go to YouTube here. It was May 23rd, I think, or maybe it was May 21st. Too many days to remember. Maybe it was the 23rd. Sorry.
Which day are you thinking about?
It was the Akron, Colorado. Search.
Oh, I think that was like June 21st or 23rd. Or
Oh, it
something
wasn't
like
May.
that.
Yeah. Talking. So, is this two tornadoes? Or are these two tornadoes? Definitely you have separate circulations. You clearly see the circulation at the ground here and another circulation here. You have different funnels. But I think it's just a little disingenuous to call every single circulation a new tornado. I think there are just so many vortices that happen with these storms that to count every individual funnel and every individual circulation as a different tornado is, to me, a little bit weird. Tornado Clips says, yes, those were twins. So, okay, Tornado Clips disagrees. And if we watch this, what happens, this other tornado is going to come towards this one. There's a crazy funnel in between them. It's brought around. And then what's going to happen is it's going to turn into one tornado.
Yeah, that's a pretty good example of two different circulations merging with each other under the same mesocyclone. And I think it's important for people to realize that these tornadoes are a lot more complex than you would think they are. It's, at the end of the day, what they are is essentially an aggregation of spinning air around a thunderstorm. So you can get multiple circulations that look like, you know, a tornado with a funnel cloud and debris cloud below it, but these can all be the same circulations, all just coming to a single point to form the main tornado. So sometimes you can have more than one of those visible at a time before they merge together.
Yep.
It's something you'll see if you ever are out storm chasing is sometimes you'll see little spin-ups of dust under a mesocyclone, and they get more and more intense as they combine together until, boom, you get your main tornado.
Yeah, the term is vorticity aggregation. And we'll bring up the GOAT. This guy, Dr. Lee Orff, does extremely high resolution simulations of supercells, and he is finding things that no one else is finding in simulations because he's doing things no one else is doing. Fluid dynamics requires an extremely high resolution. Like, fluid is very complicated, and you need to have a high resolution to see all these really interesting details. So look, you can see all these individual vertical lines. Those are different vortices.
Yeah, Dr. Lee Orff's work is absolutely incredible. If you've never seen it before, the work this guy is doing is definitely advancing the field at a pace that we haven't seen in a long time.
Yep, you can see the tornado here right in the center. And if you look on the forward flank of the storm, it's kind of hard to picture, but this would be to the east of the tornado and right along where like the cold outflow is interacting with the inflow. You see that there are these vortices that are forming on what he is calling the SVC. And yeah, these are these individual vortices that might show up as tornadoes. The stronger ones are going to show up as individual tornadoes. They'll be like that Akron, Colorado tornado. But are they different tornadoes? I don't think so. I think it's all one tornado. It's just this is how all tornadoes are. They're an aggregation. They're a combination of multiple vortices. So to call them different tornadoes, I think is a little bit goofy.
Yeah, the interpretation of it is definitely a little in the weeds. It's definitely kind of up for debate right now. Although I do kind of personally agree that when you have that many vortices all together spinning under the same mesocyclone, which is the spinning updraft of a supercell thunderstorm, there's definitely an argument to be made that those are all just circulations under the same parent tornado cyclone. Should probably take a look and see if they have any questions.
Yeah,
Kathy says, do you think the F5 Niles, Ohio tornado is the least talked about F5 tornado? And how do you think about the 4 EF4 tornadoes near the Pilger storm? Niles is definitely an interesting case. To have that many violent tornadoes over that portion of the United States is pretty rare. The Midwest definitely gets tornadoes pretty frequently, but violent tornadoes of that variety is pretty rare. You typically see an outbreak in that area like that maybe once every 20 or 30 years. Niles is definitely interesting. If there's another YouTuber on here called Weatherbox, I'm sure you guys have heard of him. He has a really good video on that tornado outbreak. But yeah, it's definitely not talked about as much. I mean, even I hadn't really heard too much about this one until I saw that video, so it's definitely pretty good.
I think
there's a lot of old tornadoes that don't get talked about enough.
This Niles F5 is the furthest east F5 in the United States. So it's kind of an anomalous tornado.
Yeah, and then the second part of that question, I think it was about Pilger.
Pilger? What do we think of the 4 F4s on Pilger?
It's pretty remarkable from one storm.
Yeah, to get 1 F4 on a storm is crazy, but to get 4, I mean, this storm only produced 5 tornadoes. I guess maybe 6 if you count these other little ones, but the fact that all of these tornadoes were F4 is really, really strange.
Yeah, that storm is, if you want to talk about like fascinating supercells, that's it right there. To have that many EF4 tornadoes from one storm, and also to have multiple occurrences of twin violent tornadoes on the ground at the same time, that's incredible. This, like, if I had to pick one single storm that I wish I could see as a storm chaser, it's this one. It's just incredible.
I think if I were to see one storm, there's I think there's 2. Washington and Roanoke. The Roanoke F4 is the one I wish I could have seen. I think the Roanoke.
I know you love your Illinois tornadoes.
Yeah, I'm very biased. I'm from Chicago, so I love the Illinois tornadoes. Capital Montana, yeah, June 1st.
Yeah,
Ethan, he always talks about the Montana one. I don't know. That's a good one, but the thing with Montana is you can't get up close and personal. You can't really. There's just something about these Illinois tornadoes that are just so different. Here it is. Here's the Roanoke one. July 13th, 2004. I'm pretty sure this is a cornado.
Oh, a evapotranspiration tornado.
Yeah, so all the corn, which Illinois has a lot of, causes the dew point spreads to increase. Basically, the corn will trap a bunch of moisture at the ground, and you get crazy instability. I think something like this had like, I think the Roanoke tornado had like 7,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE, which is just off the charts. The Gerald, Texas tornado, which is commonly known for being like a crazy high Cape day, only had like 4,000 to 5,000. And the
Yeah.
Roanoke had even more Cape.
It's just explosive amounts of potential energy just waiting to get released the second a thunderstorm fires.
Yeah, yeah. And if the thunderstorm is able to get ground based, that's when you're in trouble. And
Because even
that's
with lower shear environments, if you have that strong of instability, you have that much air going straight up when there's that strong of an updraft. What it can do is the tiny amount of that wind shear or vorticity that's at the surface, it can compensate for it. Because what it does is it causes extremely low pressure and vorticity stretching at the surface. So that tiny amount of shear can get compensated by that extreme stretching, and you can still get violent tornadoes.
yeah, the tornado genesis process with a high Cape low shear event is very different than a high shear low Cape. And that's kind of what's interesting with tornadoes is there's no one right answer. They're very different. There's different environments, different conditions. Um, each event is very special in its own right, and that's kind of why I get so much enjoyment out of looking into these things because you're always learning something new.
Yeah, it's remarkable how, you know, these things aren't straightforward to forecast. You can have tons and tons and tons of different parameter spaces that can result in tornadoes that are completely different from each other. One ingredient can compensate for the other and vice versa, and it's fascinating. I mean, there's a reason why we're fascinated with studying these things.
Yep. Kathy asks, "Do I think there will ever be a dangerous tornado in Alaska?" I'm gonna answer that one, and no, I don't think so. Alaska does have tornadoes. There's one, the furthest north tornado happened here in 1976, but the tornadoes in Alaska are not going to be dangerous. Also, the population in Alaska is so spread out, it's never going to be dangerous. So,
Yeah,
Kathy,
I mean, Alaska is so huge that it wouldn't even surprise me if most of the tornadoes that do happen up that way never are even seen by any people up there.
yeah.
It's so far north, and the water in that portion of the world is typically way too cold to support severe thunderstorms. It can happen, it's just rare. But violent or strong tornadoes, I don't know about that.
All right.
Saw that Ethan was saying earlier what he thought our favorite storm chase together was.
Our favorite storm chase. We can do that. I'll pull up your video because you have the best video.
Yeah, there's one day in particular. It's not necessarily the best view of a tornado that I've seen, but this day in particular, I think I know the one that he's about to pull up is
The perfect storm
it's
chase.
It's often portrayed as
yeah, it just
I'm gonna
the
skip your
vibe
intro.
of it was just perfect. Although going back, this intro is a little cringy. I definitely would do this differently today.
So yeah, this was May 26, 2021, and it was a 15%. Let's do this. It was a 15% PDS in Western Kansas. I mean, if you're a storm chaser, that is like as
Oh
good as
my
it
gosh,
gets.
yeah.
Um,
Some of the best chase terrain in the world, and it's the storms there are always pretty.
Amazing place, high percentage. It's like we're licking our chops. And then we started off the day with this incredible mothership. We get your time lapse. Yeah, this looks just incredible.
Yeah, the Colby Salton storm. I know that you have a specific comparison to what this looked like.
Yeah, it looks like a stealth bomber. You guys know what airplane that is. It's like a stealth bomber going across the landscape. And then we drove north. Also, we were hanging out with this guy.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys know Pi.
Oh, hey, look, there's me, there's Kelton. Go back. This guy, More Pie. You guys know who that is. I
Yeah,
don't
this
know.
day was pretty interesting because there were kind of two target areas to look at, and there was the main dry line, which if you're a storm chaser, it's like that's the one that you really want to go crazy because the storms are just so photogenic when it happens. Or there was the warm front, and we kind of positioned ourselves in a spot where we could play both targets. And I am so glad we did that because the dry line on this day busted, and the warm front, which is where we were a little closer to, ended up going off like crazy.
And so we were kind of near Selden, and then there were storms going off. Unfortunately, we were too far away from this furthest north storm, the Benkelman storm. But there was this other storm popping up to the Benkelman south, and that storm was incredible.
Yeah,
I
that storm would
remember
fire up. Go ahead.
I remember specifically we were driving north to Benkelman thinking we could catch that one. But I was looking over at this. I'm like, hold up. This storm looks pretty good. Like I don't want to pass up on this. And sure enough, we're like, all right,
Yeah,
let's
that right
commit
there
to
is
it.
the look you want to see.
And then
A
boom,
storm.
we got a tornado. And this was just a great, great tornado.
Yeah, the vibes from this day were just incredible. I mean, it was one of those days where just everything worked and fell into place for us. It wasn't really super stressful. Nothing really went super wrong. I know that your car kind of got stuck in the mud for a little bit. We had to push it out, and then
That was
Pies
fun.
got stuck,
No, we
and we
like
couldn't
that.
get that one out. Yeah,
And
I wish we would have been closer to this tornado, but it was still incredible.
so here on the right is the tornado we first saw, and then there was another one developing right in front of us. And this one was also really pretty.
I mean, if you love like supercell thunderstorm dynamics, this thing was incredible to see because it was just a classic case of like a supercell cycling out in front of it with a new updraft, with a new tornado cyclone developing in front of it. It's just if you're into that kind of science, this was incredible to see.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. Hold on, I just saw something. Saw a hand. Yeah, there are like little vortices at the ground underneath the circulation, but then eventually it really got its act together and produced like a very pronounced tornado funnel. It wasn't fully condensed, but there were intermittent ground circulation, so that was definitely a tornado.
Yeah. We've definitely gone on to see better tornadoes than this together, or at least closer. But it was just the vibes of this day all falling into place what kind of elevates it to being my favorite.
Yeah, I agree. And here's like the supercell structure, just a beauty of a storm. More supercell updraft bases. And then the grand finale, as you put it, was this gorgeous storm here.
Yeah, it's just crazy. This was all from one day of storm chasing, like within a span of like 4 or 5 hours.
So yeah, that's I would say our favorite storm chase together.
Pretty incredible. All right, let's see what other people are
Yep.
wanting to ask.
Someone asked, when do we think the next EF5 will occur? Kathy asked
That's a good question.
probably controversial, but it probably won't occur until they change the EF scale. And I think what's probably going to happen is they're going to change the EF scale, and some of the previous tornadoes like El Reno, maybe even Mayfield, will get upgraded to EF5. So
Yeah, that's a good point.
it's
I would
possible.
say that if we Yeah, I
Oh,
would
go
say
ahead.
if we
Sorry.
don't see one in the next couple of years, that we probably won't get one unless like something like Joplin happens again or they upgrade the scale. It's it's just the way that the EF scale has been interpreted lately. They're getting more and more strict about what they want to classify as EF5, so it's getting harder and harder for a tornado to fit those conditions. So it might be a while, it might be next year. I have no idea.
Well, and the point I was making is it's possible the next EF5 already happened. and they'll just upgrade one of the ones like I said, Mayfield or El Reno. I think those are the two that are probably the highest on the list. Bologna is ridiculous. Bologna should have been EF5. I don't know
Yeah,
which ones.
there's a few tornadoes that have happened since 2013 that are definitely a little controversial about their ratings, but we've gone into that so many times.
Yeah, I'm repeating myself here, but I'm gonna make one more EF scale video. It's gonna be like a well produced video, not like my last one, which was just stream highlights. But and then I'm not talking about it again. Unless there's like another crazy horrible rating by the NWS, which I'll probably say something. But
Yeah. Anything else from you guys?
all right, I'm looking at chat. August 31st, 2014.
It's 20. I'm not familiar with that day, August 21st, 2014. What happened?
Oh.
Yeah, Tornado Archive. If you guys
Oh.
haven't used it before, it's an incredible website. Go check it out.
Okay. Yeah, this day. I don't know if this was a derecho or it was like a single supercell, but this thing put down a ton of tornadoes. None of them were strong, but it just was just
Oh yeah,
boom, boom,
I'm
boom,
just
boom,
now
boom.
seeing it on your screen. That looks like either like a bookend vortex just spraying tornadoes everywhere, or maybe a supercell or something. That's definitely strange, though. That's a ton of tornadoes from one small like area.
And what's weird is if you're getting this many tornadoes, you would think some of them would be a little bit stronger. To have no EF1, EF2, or wait, hold on. There were a couple EF1s. To have no EF2s or above is really weird.
Yeah.
All right.
Hawk Chases asks what my opinions are on Reed Timmer's tornado outlook for 2024. I haven't actually seen it yet, but aside from just using some of the teleconnections, like whether it's going to be an El Nino, La Nina, or ENSO neutral year, you can kind of get an idea for like a ballpark figure of how many tornadoes a year we'll have. But in my personal opinion, forecasting that far out, like months and months in advance about how many tornadoes are going to happen is kind of pointless. I mean, there's so many variables that go into it last second.
And
I don't know.
I think long range forecasting it's like pretty inaccurate, and also it doesn't really make a big difference. Like, we're storm chasers, we're gonna go out, we're gonna try and see tornadoes. There will be tornadoes, whether or not it's 1,000 or 1,500. I don't think it's gonna really be that much of a difference. So definitely, there's always every year there's gonna be tornadoes. Tornadoes are just a fact of life out here in the United States.
A lot of questions here about some pretty old tornadoes that I am not super familiar with.
Yeah, I see the April 17th, 1963 Kankakee.
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting tornadoes from quite a long time ago that I'm sure are really fascinating.
Oh, okay. It's F4 that went pretty much due east in Kankakee. So I grew up in Chicago up here. One video I was thinking about doing was a Chicago tornadoes video. I don't know if there's anyone else here from Chicago, but I think Chicago has a pretty rich history with tornadoes, and video like that would be really interesting. Kind of more of a passion project. I don't know if it really applies to a lot of people, but
Yeah,
Chicago has
that
some really
northern
cool tornadoes.
Yeah, that northern portion of Illinois actually gets tornadoes pretty frequently.
Yeah, there was that outbreak this year. Um, Actually, there was a tornado that went right by where I grew up. I was not there because I live in Colorado now. Chicago had an EF5. Yes, Chicago, well, not technically Chicago. It was Plainfield, which is kind of like an outer suburb of Chicago.
The only August F5.
And I'm not going to spoil too much here, but Kelton is going to have a video out on that. I don't know when, but sorry, Kelton, if I wasn't supposed to say that.
Oh, it's all good. I'm in the middle of kind of getting ready to move, so it might be a little delayed, but there is a video on Plainfield specifically in the works right now.
Yep.
If you guys have seen
And
any of my other videos.
I've seen a sneak peek of it, and Kelton, you did a good job. That's gonna be a really good one. And you've already made good videos, and I think this is like one of your best. So that's gonna be
It'll be a fun one.
really cool. Okay.
Ooh, I'm starting to hear thunder outside.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I keep seeing Carolinas, so we'll go to the Carolinas. Um. Okay, kind of an interesting tidbit, but you really see there's a decrease in tornadoes right over the Appalachian Mountains. I think there's two reasons for that. One, I think mountains do definitely have an impact on tornado genesis. When you have lots of hills, it's going to be harder for the vorticity aggregation to take place because the mountains are literally disrupting the process. It just makes it more complicated. Also, this is kind of middle of nowhere. I like to call it boo-foo. There's just not a lot of people out here, so I think tornadoes just don't really produce damage. If they do form, they'll just like do some damage on trees. And
Yeah, the
not get
Appalachians,
documented.
I'm sure that there are tornadoes up there. They're a little more rare, but um it's definitely less frequent. And like you said, that area of the United States can get really rural really quickly. So you may not even be able to find it. And there's so many trees up there too. It's hard to find damage.
But if you are southeast of the Appalachians and kind of on like the flat part of North Carolina, South Carolina, tornadoes are absolutely a threat. You can absolutely get tornadoes. So
Yeah, that kind of
unless
brings
you're
up,
living
yeah.
in the Appalachian Mountains, you're not in the clear.
Yeah, this kind of brings up a pretty good point about where exactly Tornado Alley is, and it's doesn't really have a strict boundary. I mean, basically anywhere where you're not sitting directly in the mountains east of the Rockies in the United States can get tornadoes. I mean, this one that we're looking at right now is called Carolina Alley.
Hmm.
Um, there's Dixie Alley, which is kind of, the southeast area, and then you have like traditional Tornado Alley, and then there's like the Midwest area, which some people call Hoosier Alley. It's basically everywhere east of the Rocky Mountains in the United States can get tornadoes. Some of them can be pretty significant. I mean, you would not think that, North and South Carolina are tornado states, but there's been multiple violent tornadoes in that area. Same thing in like portions of the Northeast or even the Mid-Atlantic. They've all had significant tornadoes. I mean, violent or strong tornadoes in basically anywhere east of the Rockies is nothing new. It does happen. It's just some areas get it more frequently than others.
All right, Arp Takeo tipped $5. Thank you so much. So they're from Minneapolis, and they'd like to know thoughts on the June 14th, 1981 F3 that went straight through downtown. Okay. Let's see if we can find that one. Thank you so much for the $5. There it is. Got lucky. First one I clicked. So let's take a look. Yeah, so it went straight through southern Minneapolis. Looks like the city might have been a little bit further north, but it was a pretty wide tornado here. was rated F3, which is a very strong tornado and deadly. But yeah, this one pretty interesting. One thing I want to talk about is tornadoes that go through cities. I kind of brought this up in the chat of Ethan's stream yesterday, but I think some people think that cities are not tornado prone, and that's just straight up wrong. Cities are absolutely tornado prone. One city in particular, and this is relevant, especially with yesterday, but Nashville.
Nashville's been a tornado hotspot the last few years.
If there's one city that's been hit more than any other, it's Nashville. I mean, this is like, these are going straight through the heart of Nashville. And yeah, we did have one last night.
I saw someone mention about Houston. Houston gets quite a few tornadoes pretty often. In fact, I think they had one with a tornado emergency earlier this year.
Houston. Yep. Houston gets them. Although Houston is like the largest metroplex in the country.
Yeah, if you want to talk about like the definition of urban sprawl, it's Houston.
Also, let's see what other cities. Chicago, the Oaklawn F4. I've talked about that one. I'm probably going to talk about this
like
one
your
again.
origin story tornado.
This is this tornado that really got me into tornadoes because my mom saw it. I'm not going to talk about that again, but Chicago, Nashville, Cincinnati gets some. Really, if I were to pick one, Nashville is the one that. Some of these cities, Mississippi, Alabama, Birmingham, absolutely a hot spot. I don't know if these count as cities. Oklahoma City, yeah, you guys know that.
Fort Worth tornado of 2000. Yep, Fort Worth gets the whole metroplex from Dallas is it gets tornadoes pretty frequently. In fact, I would say out of all the tornado alley cities, that one's probably the most likely to get whacked by a violent one at some point soon.
All right. So we've been talking for quite a while. I did kind of want to bring up and then some announcements. It's December. We have a few more weeks left of 2023, and 2024 is coming up fast. So I am really thinking about doing more next year. Hey, Kelton, I'm gonna go solo here, and then maybe we could do Q&A after this.
Alrighty, sounds good.
All right. So pull it up here. All right, close your eyes, guys. Oh, of course it's pull this up. All right, so yeah, 2024 is coming up, and I want to make some announcements, and just I want to grow. Like, I've been making videos, I've been working my butt off this year, but I want to do more. And here are the things that I want to do. The main thing is I want to start live storm chasing. I want to not only get the additional exposure, but I want to get the word out faster. Kind of what I do now is I'll go out, record my own video, and then edit a video. I won't produce anything until like a week or two afterwards, but I want to be faster than that. And also, I want you guys to be able to take my stream and report it. And this goes with getting the word out faster. Like, I want you guys to share my stream. I want you, if I get a tornado, I want to get the word out as quickly as possible. I'm not a huge fan of the current way tornadoes are reported. I think just people posting through Twitter is the best way to go about it. It gets the word out the fastest. Other things, I want to do kind of like what we're doing here, live, but do event forecasting beforehand. Maybe share like where I want to target, what I think is happening. I want to teach you guys, and also I want to like answer questions. I want to interact more, and I feel like posting videos and replying to comments is not really the best interaction. It's kind of like a weird, like I don't get to know anyone. So other thing, live interviews. So kind of like what I'm doing with Kelton here, but I want to get some other people on. A couple people I want to interview. Hank is a big one. Dr. Lee Orff, I want to interview him. There's a couple, maybe like Max Olson, he's a great chaser. Get Reed on the stream as well. I really want to just bring other people on the channel and maybe use the interview as a chance to use them in future videos. Also, another announcement. I am currently working with Skip Talbot on the April 4th incident from earlier this year. Skip is doing a full-on analysis on both my video and Tanner's video. I can't share it now, but he has found some really interesting things. I'm not going to say it, but you can kind of see on my screen right there what he found with that tornado that I was hit by. So yeah, that's coming up. Another goal for 2024, and this is, I'm just throwing this out there. I don't want to make any promises. This is a very, very difficult goal, but I think it is possible. I want to get a 360 camera inside of a tornado. I think getting a tornado 360 tornado probe video would be extremely like interesting to watch and just fascinating, and it also could provide scientific insights. And right now I'm at 33K, but if I hit 100K at some point, I do want to get my play button, and I'm putting that thing into a tornado. I don't care about things. I want to put 100K play button inside of a tornado. That'd be hilarious. I also am introducing memberships because, like I said, I'm going to be starting to do live streams, and you get quite a few things. The loyalty badges, I got these like really cool retro Fujita badges. And I do want to say, if you don't want to do this, like totally fine. I just wanted to put this out there. I've been contacted by a lot of people who ask me like, "Hey Chris, how can we support you?" And I'm just kind of putting this out there. So if you want to do it, great. If not, also totally fine. But there are some extra perks. I'm going to be putting out my high resolution photos for you guys to use for whatever. I have some old, like, long form raw footage that you guys can also see. I don't like putting raw footage out as normal videos because they don't necessarily do that well. Also, I'll keep you guys updated. And the other thing I want to talk about, and this is, I want to get your input on this because this is all like totally up in the air, but I'm thinking about doing interesting types of merch. On my last video, someone mentioned a coffee table book. I know Thomas Grzoulis does like a really long form book, and that's amazing information. But kind of what I'm thinking is more of like just like a fun visual graphic novel sort of thing with the tornado tracks as well as information and photos, something you can put out and just share your tornado love with whoever passes through your house. But I will say a book like this is a huge undertaking. It would be a lot of work. So if something like that, I don't know. That would probably be end of 2024 at the earliest. Also, this is the other cool one, tornado cards. And this is a product idea that I've really, really liked. And it's not my idea, other people have come up with it, but I would love to do something like this. I think it's cool to have like little memorabilia as well as just like little keepsakes. there's a million other prints you can get out there. So many people have prints, but if I'm gonna do merch, I want to do something a little bit more special and unique. So, I guess I'm gonna read chat here for a little bit, see what you guys think. But yeah, appreciate any. Go Hornets likes cards. Storms have captured a lot of interest. Yeah. So I think the cards, I've looked at the viability, and I think I could probably get the cards out maybe by April this year. It would be an initial investment to get them all printed, but I think it's doable. Kathy noticed the F6 badge. Yes, so the loyalty badge starts at F1 and goes all the way up to F6. So there have been two F6, the Xenia and the Lubbock tornado, I think, were the two F6s. And they were initially rated F6, and then they were not. But then people kind of decided that F5 is as high as it goes. So that's kind of a joke. So yeah, seriously guys, thanks for showing up. It's fun hanging out and talking and answering questions. And I think my whole point of doing this is I want to do this more. I want to interact with you guys more. Yeah, I think it could be beneficial. I have a lot to teach, and I know you guys want to learn. Everyone's eager to learn, so. No, we will never get an F6, Maury and Alex. It's kind of like a joke. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. Like, thanks for being here, and if you guys want to support me, that would be totally awesome. But all right, let me bring Kelton back, and then we can do a little bit more Q&A, and then we'll probably end it here soon.
Can you hear me again?
Yep, let me pull you up.
All right, sweet.
All right, let's answer a little questions for. I'm not leaving. I'm gonna be here for probably another 10 or 15. Answer questions, and then we'll probably end it there. But yeah, so if you guys have any questions, let us know.
Yeah, feel free to ask anything.
Yeah, 2024 will be an interesting year. I know I didn't watch Reed's video, but I'm very optimistic. I'm getting better at storm chasing. Every year I feel like I'm improving, and I'm learning more about like what kind of videos you guys want to watch. I'm learning more about what I want to do as a storm chaser, and we're just constantly improving. So not only will there be, I think there will be a lot of tornadoes in 2024 just based on like the ENSO cycle. But as far as like content on this channel, I think it's gonna be good. Let's go back to this scene here. Okay, let's read some questions. What do I think the Clarksville tornado will be rated? Okay, you know what? I actually had some damage pulled up.
Probably what, EF3?
I think high end EF3. If I was a betting man, it'll be like EF3 165. But I do think there's a chance they go EF4 170. So my guess is high end EF3, low end EF4. I don't think it's not going to be EF5. If you're wondering EF5, no, definitely not. No, SPC Houston is probably EF4 or F5. No, EF4 at the highest, not F5.
Yeah. See you, Ethan.
All right, later, Ethan, dude. Always fun hanging out. Here's Nicholas's tweet here. Yeah, this totally obliterated, well-built house. Something like this might get 170. Nick is really really sad to see this, but Nick is really good at finding these things. He's really good at damage assessment. So yeah, there's some really bad damage in Clarksville, but I don't think we're gonna see an F5, F4 maybe. Hayden says 170, 175. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's probably for like the highest rating that they would possibly go with that tornado, I'd say is right around there. Probably 165, 170.
Yeah, this damage here is in Clarksville. This is not. I mean, it's. I would never want to experience this, but this is not even EF3. This is probably like EF2.
Yeah, you've got the roofs completely removed with like maybe a couple of exterior walls collapsed on some of the weaker structures. That's high end EF2 to maybe low end EF3 damage. It's when you start getting like all but one or two walls collapse, that's EF4 damage. And then when you have something that's completely swept away with, an exceptionally well built house, completely swept away with nothing really left behind, ground scouring, windrowing, all that stuff. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's kind of your EF5 damage indicators, which this is not even close to.
Mm-hmm. So this is
Still sad,
Hendersonville,
but
which, yeah. Oh my God, it's so sad. This Hendersonville damage also pretty bad. This again looks like high end EF3, low end EF4. Definitely not EF5.
hate seeing that.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it's someone's house or something. I don't know. Also, I do want to point out, so we were talking about these up here, but Nicholas, the same guy, Nicholas K, he pointed out that there were other tornado vortex signatures down south. Whether or not these get counted as tornadoes, this is very preliminary. This is not final, but he tallied at least 29 tornadoes, but the strong ones were these ones up here in Tennessee, near Nashville
Hmm.
and Clarksville. Maury's data on the road. He says he's rating at 175. All right, I think that's pretty reasonable. We'll see though. We'll probably have an answer here in the next couple days. For those who are, I kind of want to just show this again. This is just so nuts. Oh, this was not. This was Clarksville. This video here. We'll go over it again. Yeah, I haven't seen anything like this before.
Oh shit. Oh my god.
That's insane, man.
Yeah. So just wild stuff happened yesterday, and yeah. Caden says NWS Clarksville. I don't know if it's NWS Clarksville, but NWS has already preliminary rated at 150.
I
Very
think that's would
possible.
make it an EF3.
Yeah, 150 is EF3. I haven't really been keeping up. It just got put out there. Okay, so that probably happened while I was streaming. Um,
Does anyone know what caused it? It's my personal opinion that it looks like the tornado may have hit a substation, and at a substation you have these large transformers that have these oil tanks on there that are meant to cool off the fluid inside of it that helps cool it down to make it more efficient. um, and when a tornado hits something like that, it's obviously going to break apart. So I think what happened is that that drum of cooling oil probably got breached and leaked everywhere, and then when that plant arced all over the place, it probably ignited, and that's what you're seeing as the fireball, because that cooling oil is definitely flammable.
so yeah, the explosion happened right here at this substation, power substation. And that video was taken just to the north of it by Philip Dixon.
Someone's asking what they think the worst tornado of 2023 was, other than Rolling Fork.
I think Matador, Texas was probably the worst. The vehicle damage in Matador, Texas was some of the worst vehicle damage we've ever seen from any tornado, let alone just 2023. And NWS rated it EF3, which I have talked about. I disagree with that rating. I'm not talking about it.
I'd put what Kyoto and Matador as probably the two other super significant tornadoes from this year.
Yep. I will talk about that in a future video. It's going to be my last installment of the EF scale videos. Okay. Any other questions?
I guess on the note of 2023, do you want to talk about any of the kind of highlights from this year, or do you want to save that for another video?
I'm going to save highlights for my end of year video. End of year video is going to be my next one. I put out 2 videos recently that were not quite as well produced as maybe the ones I've done in the past. I tried to do I did one on like nuclear bombs and natural disasters, and that video was clearly not received well by the viewers. So taking a little break from stuff like that, and I'm gonna do storm chasing next, my end of year video, and then after that we're gonna do Forgotten Tornadoes Part 2, which Forgotten Tornadoes was one of the more well-received videos I've ever made. And I guess I can sneak peek. There's one tornado that I think it's not really forgotten, but I feel like it's not talked about nearly as much as it should be. But it is the Hallam, Nebraska F4. See, I don't even know where it is.
For this one, if you guys don't know about this one, this was the widest tornado on record for a long time, up until the infamous tornado that happened in El Reno, Oklahoma in 2013, which was just slightly wider. This one was 2.5 miles wide. El Reno in 2013 was 2.6 miles wide. But Hallam's one of those tornadoes that's just incredible, and it's just completely forgotten.
Yeah, and something really interesting about this tornado was that it was so wide, and it did F4 damage pretty well removed from the center. So it did F4 damage in Hallam, Nebraska here.
Which didn't even take a direct hit.
But the core, the worst winds were to the south. So if it did F4 damage on the north end of the tornado, that is just wild to think about. I mean, who knows how bad the winds were to the south. And like Kelton was saying, this was the widest tornado from 2004, May 22nd, 2004, all the way until May 31st, 2013, when the El Reno EF3 happened.
Yep. I think in order it's So-So, Bassfield, Hallam, and then El Reno for the 3 widest tornadoes.
Okay.
Yeah, tornadoes this large are just incomprehensible.
Mikhail's tornado channel, what's worse, Didsbury or Kyoto? I think Kyoto. Didsbury was absolutely strong, but Kyoto just visually looked a lot stronger.
Scrumpman's asking about the Mulhall, Oklahoma tornado. I think that one happens on the same day as May 3rd, 99 more, right? Or
Yep.
Ridge Creek.
Man, these guys are good.
Yeah, you guys know your tornado history. Mulhall's definitely interesting. From what I've seen of pictures of it, it actually does kind of look visually similar to the Bridge Creek tornado a little bit, just after, I think it was at night or something, or at least later in the day.
Is this it? Bridge Creek? Or was Mulhall after Greensburg?
No. Mulhall, I think was May 3rd, 99.
Why am I not seeing it? Oh, I know why. Wait a second.
Yeah, I know that there's some debate on whether or not this tornado was as strong or maybe even
Is this it?
stronger than the Bridge Creek tornado.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know why I'm not seeing it. Yeah, we'll figure that one out. But yeah, I'm gonna include Mahal on the next Forgotten Tornadoes video for sure. And then also, probably shouldn't be doing all this, but shouldn't be.
Advertising what
I
videos you're
should.
gonna be doing next.
Yeah, they should be surprised and fun and interesting, but whatever. We'll reward the people who showed up to stream. The Trousdale was even wider than the Greensburg tornado, and I think this one, had it, tracked directly over the town, would have been probably
Oh
rated
my
higher.
gosh, yeah. If you guys haven't taken a look at some of the tornadoes from the Greensburg supercell, not just the Greensburg EF5, that storm, that supercell is absolutely incredible. It produced multiple massive tornadoes, and this Trousdale one that happened right after Greensburg was even wider and potentially even stronger than the Greensburg EF5,
Yeah,
which is just
so
crazy.
if you go off of the circulation on radar, this Trousdale had wider and faster winds. So, but the thing
I
is,
mean,
it
it
did.
wouldn't surprise me. I think the low level jet was even stronger for that tornado than it was for the Greensburg one.
Yeah, the Greensburg tornado tracked right over the town, which that's really sad, but that's why it got the EF5 rating. Trousdale did not track over any towns, so did not do that.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you actually take a look at the Google Earth imagery from Greensburg, you can actually see ground scouring and like some trenching leading up into the town, which is pretty interesting.
All right, let's do a couple more and then we're gonna call it here. Um,
Which Pilger tornado was worth the north or south twin? That's a good question. I would
no.
probably say the actual tornado that hit Pilger, or Pilger, however you pronounce it. Um, just because it was, that one actually did a lot more damage and it lived for quite a bit longer than the other twin did.
Yeah, I don't know which one was the worst. You're
They were
saying
both significant
the
tornadoes.
one that went through Pilger is the one you said?
Yeah, the main Pilger tornado.
Oh, okay.
Realistically, any of those EF4s from that day, uh, an argument can be made for any of them. They were all significant.
Yep. It's it's really hard to say, oh, this tornado is worse because like all tornadoes are bad, and yeah, it's just kind of hard to quantify that because some of the ones that might have higher winds won't hit something, and it's worse if a tornado hits something, not necessarily if it. So it's just kind of a complicated situation. Um,
Definitely a unique situation, though.
yeah.
Any other questions from you guys? See if there's any last minute good ones.
Uh, 1956 northeast of Bay City. In 1956, I guess that. Northeast of Bay. Oh, is it this? Grand
Oh, the
Rapids.
Palm Sunday 1965 twins. That's an iconic photo.
Yes. Well, Palm Sunday was different. Palm Sunday was 1965, but.
Yeah, I'm just seeing other comments. People are talking
Oh,
about
okay,
Heston and
gotcha.
Gossel as well.
Yeah, Michigan does have some like pretty iconic tornado outbreaks. Uh, 1965. Yeah, so 65. This is one I want to definitely do some sort of a video on. Not necessarily just this outbreak, but you guys all know that Palm Sunday photo of like the two. Let me pull it up. spelled it wrong. This photo here. I actually spent some time trying to find this location, and I think I may have found this. So let me ask you guys, do you think this was one tornado or two tornadoes? One tornado, two tornadoes. Because I don't know how much of a stream delay, so.
It's a good question. Pretty stout funnels.
Two tornadoes, two. Bentley says one. I've only seen one tornado. So most people are saying two, and I'm gonna tell you that it is one tornado. There's a photo sequence. I know visually it's two vortexes or vortices, but this is a single tornadic circulation.
Probably two giant subvortices.
Two
orbiting
giant
around each other.
subvortices, yeah. Master X asks, which is stronger, Phil Campbell Hackleberg or Smithville?
Ooh, that's a good one. 1 second.
I think probably Smithville had higher wins, but if we want to talk about the amount of energy released, Phil Campbell Hackleberg across its entire path released much more energy.
Yeah, those tornadoes, man, those are some crazy significant ones. I did a whole video about those two EF5s recently, but I would say out of the two, Smithville is probably the stronger of the two. But like you said, Phil Campbell Hackleberg was on the ground for a lot longer.
Yeah. And it was wider. So like if you
Mhm.
think about like how much energy is released, it's not only just the instantaneous amount of energy and like the fastest winds, but how wide and how long it was. And fun fact about Phil Campbell Hackleberg is that it actually produced the widest swath of EF5 damage ever documented. So if you interpolate and maybe make some assumptions, I think it's quite possible that you could make the argument that the Phil Campbell was the strongest of all time.
Yeah, realistically, any of the tornadoes from that day are contenders for being the strongest. I mean, even the El Reno Piedmont tornado that happened not even a month later was just exceptionally strong. That's, I think, the second or third highest wind speed ever recorded, probably tied right behind Bridge Creek or El Reno. I think those two kind of go back and forth about which one's considered the number one spot. And then obviously the oil rig that it completely destroyed and ripped out of the ground, which that thing weighed over like 2 million pounds. Just air, moving air did that.
And not to bring up controversy again, but I have seen some people from NWS that have made the point that the May 24, 2011 El Reno tornado would not be rated EF5 nowadays. Which
Yeah, that's an interesting point, is that the El Reno Piedmont tornado from that year doesn't actually have any EF5 damage indicators that fit within the confines of the normal enhanced Fujita scale. It was done with interpretation based from engineers based on the oil rig and the mobile Doppler radar thing, which is kind of inconsistent with the way that the rest of the scale works, but I don't know. The decision was made. I mean, it's accurate. The tornado really was that strong. It's just it introduces inconsistency in the scale among other tornadoes.
yeah, it's just wild. I don't know why they would even like. I get where the NWS is coming from, where they have these strict set of rules, but I mean, if there's other evidence, other data, I think we should include that. Um,
Oh yeah, for sure. Anything that we have available to us should be included.
and what's weird, and not to like harp on the NWS too much, but they have strict rules in certain offices, and then other offices do different things. So like these sets of rules that they make are pretty inconsistent already. So I don't know. It's just seems like they're applying them differently, different tornadoes and
Yeah.
different events.
Someone was asking which one we think was worst, the Heston or Gossel, Kansas tornadoes from the 1990 outbreak, I think.
I don't know. Actually, no. You know what? Scratch that. I do know. Which Weston? Gotta find that one. Here it is. So this was the one instance where you had two F5s on the ground right next to each other. Very similar to the Pilger event. Visually, very similar. Both strong tornadoes. Also, F5s back then, which what year is this? 1990. I'm pretty sure this was surveyed by Fujita. He was a little bit,
The goat.
yeah, we love Fujita. He was a little bit more lenient when it came to F5 ratings. He gave them out a lot more than we do nowadays. But visually, I think the Gossel tornado was stronger. Um, Especially when it
Yeah,
was
it's possible.
at the stage here. It went from just like a circulation to an extremely violent looking wedge. Um, I don't know if there's other documentation of Heston maybe earlier on in his life. It was stronger. But if we're talking about right here at this point, definitely the Gossel tornado. Because, I mean, you can see what happened. The Heston tornado kind of died out and it was pulled around. Meanwhile, as the
Emerged.
Heston was dying out, the Gossel tornado became the dominant tornado. And it actually, look at this. Like, it does not get more clear than that. It pulled in the Heston tornado and acted as a satellite and kind of merged together. We call that a handoff. So that the tornado cycle or the mesocyclone, it's the same storm, but the tornadic circulation at the ground was different. And maybe
Yeah.
in instances like this, you can call them different tornadoes, but I think the best way to think about it is tornado families, just because these storms are constantly producing multiple vortices out in front at all times.
Yeah, they cycle and then produce again. Have we heard of the May 24th, 2016 Dodge City outbreak? Oh, yeah. If you want to talk about like iconic storm chasing day from the last 10 years, that's probably at the very top.
Yeah.
It was pretty incredible. I haven't been lucky enough to see something like that yet, but pretty incredible day. What do we think was more worse, more 99 or Gerald? That's a good question. I
Uh
definitely have some pretty weird opinions about Gerald, but
yeah, so let me I'm going to cut you off. I'm going to take over here at least on the Gerald topic.
yeah, go for
I
it.
This is kind of an unpopular opinion, and I know a lot of people look at Gerald as like, oh, this is the strongest tornado of all time. I personally do not think it was. Don't get me wrong, I
Agree.
think it had F5 winds and was extremely strong, but to call it the strongest tornado of all time is a little bit not true. I mean, the main reason being just how slowly it moved. Um, Here it is.
Yeah, that forward movement speed played a massive role in the damage.
Here's the Gerald tornado. Yeah, it was slowly going south, and right here over the Double Creek Estates, it was nearly stationary. So you have this wide tornado with winds well over 200 miles per hour, just churning on one spot, and that's why we see damage as bad as it is. I want to do another video in the future. What is the strongest tornado of all time? And I will definitely talk about it in that video. Um, but I do not think the Gerald tornado is the strongest of all time. I also, we go to 1999. This is the Bridge Creek Moore F5, the fastest wind speeds ever measured. I do not think this was the strongest tornado of all time either. Um, so But to answer your question, I think this tornado was stronger than JRL. It's just this was moving and JRL was stationary, so they're two different situations. Sorry to cut you off, Kelton. Did you have anything to add to that? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, when I said that I had kind of a controversial opinion, it's pretty spot on with what I had to say. When you have a tornado, don't get me wrong, Joe was still probably violent, but for me at least, the fact that it was hardly moving, or when it was over Double Creek, it wasn't moving at all for multiple minutes at a time, it's pretty hard to take that claim seriously when you have the same structures being subjected to 200, possibly 200 plus mile per hour winds for minutes on end, when we're kind of expected to see similar tornadoes moving at 50 or 60 miles per hour, inflicting that damage in less than a second. It's like, it's not really fair to compare the two.
Um, Minecraft Villager asks, "What do we think is the strongest?" Then, I think there are two that stand out to me. Actually, there's three tornadoes that stand out. Um, the Phil Campbell Hackleberg tornado, the
Hmm.
Smithville tornado, and the 1925 Tri-State tornado. I think those have the best case for being the
Yeah, pretty
strongest of all time.
extreme. I would even include El Reno Piedmont in there as well. They were all
Yeah, the
pretty nasty.
2011. Also, Rainsville is another one, and Philadelphia. All the F5s from the 2011 Super Outbreak, and then also 1925 Tri-State, and then May 24, 2011. And then
Yeah.
below them, I would put 1999 more at like 5 or 6. I don't know. I lost count.
There's also that footage of the Canton Lake tornado, which is incredible.
Yeah, Canton Lake tornado was strongest right over the lake, but yeah, who knows how strong that tornado actually was.
What's worse, Andover 91 or more 2013? It's a good one.
I think probably Andover was. More 2013 was absolutely worthy of an EF5. I'm never gonna like say, oh, it shouldn't have been EF5, but I think of all the EF5s on record, this is probably the closest to being an EF4. If you look at the EF5 damage, it really only did it in very small areas.
And on
Um,
one of them, it literally looped over the same spot twice.
So yeah, so this area right here, you have a very obvious loop, and the area to the south is where it did the F5 damage. But if you think about the looping of the tornado, it went over that area twice. So again, like the Gerald tornado, the parts that are exposed longer on the south side especially are the parts that are gonna get the worst damage.
Yeah.
So
Still an EF5, but probably the softest of all of them.
yep. Yeah, still deadly, and I think as far as like what is the strongest of all time, if we're talking about human impact, once you get to EF4, it doesn't matter because like your entire house is already swept off of its foundation. Um,
Most structures won't survive past that point unless you're like in a concrete bunker or basement.
yeah, the whole what is the strongest? This is like it's interesting to think about, but as far as human impact, it doesn't really mean much because what yeah, once you're at F4, it's already as bad as it gets. Philadelphia versus Rainsville. Which one was stronger? Asked Goaded. Um, I don't know. I
Interesting
don't
question. For me,
know.
Philadelphia's interesting because it has an argument for having some of the most extreme pressure gradient forces across it, but wind speeds, I'm not sure. Both of those tornadoes are it's once you get to that high end with tornadoes, it's so hard to compare them because they just destroy everything.
Yeah, so down here is the Philadelphia one. Philadelphia is known for just digging trenches in the ground. And then the Rainsville I don't know if it's really known. It had a pretty wide swath of EF5. It had the crazy multi-vortex dead man walking video right here. Um, I really should do more research. My friend Tornado TRX, he knows a lot about this. I should ask him what he thinks. My gut feeling is I think probably Rainsville was stronger. Um, the whole digging trenches in the ground. I know a lot of people like really hang on that damage being the worst. Oh yeah, Elite Knight made a point. Same supercell. So yeah, both F5s from the same
Yep.
supercell. So the whole digging trenches into the ground, I am not a huge fan of that because there can be pockets of ground that just, you have loose soil. Like you might have hard soil on top of loose soil. So then when that tornado tracks over that area, it's going to pull that hard soil off of the loose soil just because it's just not stable ground. So I just don't think that is enough to go off of and call the Philadelphia tornado the strongest of all time. Smithville is similar in that it did produce like a trench in the town of Smithville, but it also did a lot more than that. Like it pulled pipes out of the ground. It turned the crematory or whatever, the cemetery house, into just
The
like
funeral home, yeah.
funeral home into like a pile of dust. So I think Smithville and Phil Campbell Hackleberg definitely are the two strongest of this event. And also, I mean, they're right next to each other. So this area in that environment was definitely the most volatile.
Yeah, I think there was like a differential heating boundary or something there that just maximized the helicity in that specific area, and that's why those two were just a little bit above the other ones.
Yep. This guy's asking about the April 12th and 13th, 2020.
Oh, is that I think that's the Easter outbreak, right?
Yep.
Did a whole video on this one.
Yeah, you're the expert, not me. What do you think?
It's pretty interesting. It's kind of ironic because I made that video and then literally like the next day, a fact that I said about that outbreak, which at the time it was the third largest tornado outbreak in history, and the day after I released that video, 3/31 of this year happens, and it makes that no longer true.
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
This outbreak is pretty interesting though. You've got the third widest tornado ever in Mississippi, another one of those tornadoes that were probably an EF5, but there's no damage indicators to justify that down there. You've got this swath of tornadoes that are kind of following along the surface low up further north, and then a whole bunch of EF3s that were actually really close to I think it's called the Savannah River site. It's in South Carolina, but that's actually like a nuclear fuel processing facility or like a tritium extraction facility. But basically, they handle radioactive elements there. Several of those tornadoes passed within the boundaries of that area and somehow didn't hit any of those structures, which, yeah, probably wouldn't have done anything to them because they're pretty well built, but still, that's kind of scary to think about. But huge area, basically everything from like Louisiana all the way to the Atlantic Ocean saw tornadoes from that one outbreak, which is pretty crazy.
Also, there was
It's definitely pretty fascinating to study when I was making that video.
There's an F4 down here in South Carolina. That's kind of forgotten. No one really talks about that. But
Yeah, I think I briefly mentioned it, but yeah.
This is, like you were saying, it's just weird. I mean, you have the giant, strong tornadoes down here. That probably was like one or two storms. And then you just have a bunch of random that was the center of the low up here. Then you have another, it's just a very spread out outbreak. Just kind of shows how diverse and like complex these systems are. Gideon, what do I think 2023 Nashville tornado will be rated? Probably EF3. Elite Knight, thanks for offering, but I'm good. I've got links to all of them, all the videos. Alright.
A lot of comparisons between different tornadoes. You can make a whole video about that.
Yeah, tornado comparisons, it's kind of hard to compare them. I mean, yeah, they're all very different. They happen in different areas, they look different, they do different damage. They have different winds, so am I planning to cover the international Fujita scale in my new EF scale video? Um, I don't know about the IF scale. That's possible. That's a good point. The one that we've been talking about in our little group of friends is the Japanese Fujita scale. The or it's actually JEF, the Japanese Enhanced Fujita scale, and that one is super interesting. Um, they actually have in the JEF scale some damage indicators that are rated at over 300 miles per hour. So think again, don't quote me on this, but if the tornado pulls up asphalt, it's considered over 300 miles per hour. So that's just
Jeez.
wild. So if that happens, it's automatically an EF or JEF 5. These names are getting ridiculously long, but yeah, I will definitely talk about that in the future video. I'm also going to talk about Matador. I'm going to talk about Rolling Fork, Perryton, um, and just like how the NWS inputs data. I think the data, the damage assessment toolkit is good, but it could be a lot better. Um, I'll get into the details in that video. Jonesboro, Arkansas from 2020. That was, I think, oh,
I don't know if that happened. I think that was the same day that that Illinois risk kind of busted.
yeah, EF3. That's what I thought. March 28th, 2020. Yeah. So I was up here in northern Illinois. I did not see very much. Actually, didn't see anything.
Josh, the website is Tornado Archive.
Otters, I did talk about Nashville. If you want to go back earlier in the stream, I'm probably gonna end this here. Any minute. But yeah, I'm gonna keep this live stream up. The last one I didn't keep up because I did some things incorrect, and then I released like an edited version. I'm not gonna re-edit this one. Mayfield 2021 or Coleman 2011? I don't know. Probably Mayfield if I had to guess.
Yeah.
What's worse,
say I
Coleman or
agree with that.
Tuscaloosa? Probably Tuscaloosa. What was stronger, Greensburg or Trousdale? We kind of talked about that earlier, but Trousdale
Trousdale.
was probably stronger, but it did not hit a town like Greensburg did, so it didn't get that EF5 rating.
Yep.
All right, I think we should end it.
Yeah, you want to wrap it there?
My voice is really hurting. I don't normally talk this much, so seriously, thanks guys for hanging out, and we'll do this again. Like I said, I introduced channel memberships. I'm going to be streaming next year. I'm going to be doing live interviews. I'm also going to be doing live analysis and forecasting. So I will definitely be streaming like this and in real life a lot more. Also, I'm going to just keep on the video grind. That's never going to stop. And yeah, thanks again for coming. And Kelton, thanks for helping me out. I kind of leaned on you.
Anytime, dude.
Yeah, I needed it, but